When my husband died, I discovered an amazing secret. The $17 million inheritance I kept hidden. The day Tom died, Sarah felt shivers of disbelief snake through her body like ice. How could the universe pull such a cruel joke? She could hardly breathe, let alone comprehend the world without him. He was the heartbeat of their family, the mechanic with grease-stained hands, always fixing things with a gentle laugh. Now, with just weeks before his funeral, each corner of their modest home echoed with his absence, the air heavy with grief and unanswered questions. Sorting through Tom's belongings, a mundane task, felt monumental. Organizing was a form of denial, just like the way dusty memories floated back, faded photographs of joyous summers and birthday parties. That's when she stumbled upon the envelope. It was plain, unassuming, but her fingers quivered as she pulled it from the depths of a worn toolbox. The words, "in case of emergency," danced provocatively in front of her eyes. Inside, the documents revealed a staggering $17 million inheritance linked to secrets of Tom's past. Secrets Sarah never knew existed. With every line she read, a storm brewed inside her. The initial thrill of possible fortune was brutally undercut by fear. What was this new life, and what would it mean for her children? To have money that could alter their everyday existence felt monstrous. Did Tom want this for them? She envisioned their small house transformed into a mansion, but with that image came a knot in her stomach. Hadn't they built their lives on values of hard work and perseverance? She fought the irrational guilt surging forth. The shame of unraveling their simple life clawed at her conscience. The unease fermented. Her identity hung in the balance. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Jenna, her childhood friend, was back in town. They confided in whispered conversations that stretched into sleepless nights. Joanna encouraged Sarah to reclaim her dreams of teaching high school art, a passion dimmed by the weight of daily responsibilities. Each conversation left Sarah teetering on the precipice of hope and despair. The notion that she could uplift not just her children, but the community threw her into confusion. Yet every plan for the art program felt tainted. Would the neighbors see this as betrayal? The expressions of discontent were already present, and she felt their gazes on her, judgment simmering beneath every polite smile. Caught in the whirlwind of resignation and ambition, Sarah's heart raced at night, unable to find solace. Every villainous whisper echoed in her mind, each jab about wealth wrapped around her throat like a noose. She feared losing her essence, the faintest sense of triumph for her children's future looming like a shadow in her heart. The burden of deciding her family's direction pressed heavily against her chest. How could she honor Tom's legacy while embracing the freedom buried within the inheritance? An unsettling truth lurked. The documents also hinted at the seams of Tom's past, ties that shook the foundation of their life together with revelations she dared not consider. Readjusting her footing in this unrecognizable world seemed daunting, the ink barely dry on the words that would steal her breath. Each discovery was a piece of a puzzle that might lead her down a path where either she lost everything she believed in or discovered what life could be anew. Facing the unknown, entangled in hope and despair, Sarah stood on shaky ground, praying for clarity in the storm, yet knowing she might drown in the secrets that lay ahead. As days transformed into a haze of grief and speculation, Sarah found herself weaving between the immediacy of her loss and the new reality emerging from the depths of that unassuming envelope. Each morning, the sunrise broke into her home like an uninvited guest, casting harsh light on her swirling thoughts. Who was she, if not Tom's wife? The identity that had defined her felt fragile. The thought of pursuing a career in art, Something so far removed from the life they shared, began to thaw into possibility, but was laced with doubt. Determined to change the narrative playing in her heart, Sarah sat her children down. The weight of their father's absence hung heavier than anything material she could offer, yet she needed them to understand this new chapter. She sensed their eyes scrutinizing her every move as she explained the inheritance, not merely a sum of money, but a gateway. At first, silence filled the room like thick fog. Then, small voices piped up, expressing their own wishes for a dreamier life. They spoke of better schools and art classes, of adventures they could only dare hope for. Their naive ambition ignited something dormant within her, a flicker of strength buried under layers of grief. Over the next few days, Sarah lost herself in planning her art program. In the quiet hours, she poured herself into outlines, sketches, and ideas that erupted with color and fervor. The notion that she could influence young minds ignited a sense of purpose. Yet, shadows loomed large. Every evening was punctuated by doubts, whispers of inadequacy gnawing at her resolve. What if it wasn't good enough? What if she wasn't good enough? The community's expectations echoed in her mind, a cacophony of voices arguing that her ambitions were a betrayal of the life they shared with Tom. One night, she reached out to Jenna, her unwavering support amid the chaos. Their conversations shifted from reminiscing about Tom to bold discussions about the future. With Jenna's encouragement, Sarah dared to envision the art program as not just a personal triumph, but as a celebration that could honor Tom's spirit. Maybe this was his final gift to her, the chance to expand her universe, chasing dreams long tucked away under practical considerations. Yet, as the days passed, a nagging sense of foreboding crawled back into her thoughts. What remained of Tom's secrets? Each mention of the money pricked at an unseen wound. She couldn't ignore the implications, the ominous suggestion that accompanying the inheritance was a darker legacy. Fueled by this duality, Sarah devised a plan. Before her vision could take flight, she resolved to unearth more about the inheritance and, more crucially, the enigma of Tom's past. The air held a charged tension as she sat on her bed, papers strewn out before her like a battlefield. What distinct revelations awaited her? Bitter her suspense simmered beneath her skin. So much uncertainty lay ahead, and surrendering to fear could stifle the spark ignited within her. Tomorrow, she resolved, she would confront the shadows stretching behind Tom's life, those pieces of a puzzle that could free her from her emotional prison or ensnare her further. It wasn't merely about understanding the inheritance, it was about reclaiming her autonomy, her identity. With a final glance at her children's smiling faces caught in a moment of laughter, she prepared herself mentally for a journey that could potentially reshape the very fabric of their lives. But before she could unravel the secrets hidden within those documents, a knock at the door shattered her resolve, presenting an unexpected visitor. Who would dare challenge her now, just as she was gathering strength? The future felt more precarious than ever. Sarah stood frozen at the door, heart hammering in her chest. She had anticipated many things, until now the unexpected weight of another presence sliced through her plans like a knife. Hesitantly, she opened the door, bracing herself for anything, yet unprepared for the sight that met her. An unfamiliar man with a familiar aura, determined but shrouded in a veil of uncertainty. "Is this Sarah?" he asked, voice steady but tinted with unexplained urgency. She nodded, sensing the tension radiating from him. The air thickened around them, filled with unspoken revelations. "Can I help you?" "I believe we need to talk about your husband, Tom." His words hung between them like a delicate thread ready to snap with any sudden movement. Questions spiraled through Sarah's mind. Who was this man? What connection did he have to Tom? She stepped back, allowing him to enter. "Who are you?" she demanded as he crossed the threshold, instinctively scanning his expression for clues. "I'm Alex, an old friend of Tom's. We worked together on a few projects." He hesitated, searching for the right words. I didn't know about the situation until recently. I'm so sorry for your loss. Thank you, she replied, her tone clipped. Why are you here? He took a breath, visibly steeling himself for a conversation that felt poised on the brink of violence. I need you to listen carefully. Tom wasn't just a man. He was involved in some things, complex things that I fear you might be unaware of. The inheritance you're now grappling with, it comes with complications. Complications. The word struck her hard, a shard of ice sliding down her spine. This was exactly what she had feared. What kind of complications? His business dealings were not straightforward. There's a chance that his past might come knocking, and it could affect you and your children. His gaze held hers, unflinching, demanding her attention. The room felt smaller, the walls seemingly closing in around Sarah as the implication of his words sunk deeper. She shook her head slightly, trying to process this. What do you mean? Are you saying our inheritance might be dangerous? I'm not saying that outright, he replied defensively, but there are people, interests connected to the way he managed his finances, people who might not take kindly to his absence. Dread coiled within her. Why are you telling me this now? Why not when he was alive? Because I didn't know. We drifted apart over the years, he explained. Tom protected you from this world, but now it seems he may not have fully accounted for his choices, not just for himself, but for you. Her breathing quickened. She was spinning, the room starting to tilt with the implications of what he was saying. For all his talk of protecting her, had he been hiding more than she realized? This new layer of complexity unraveled her sense of certainty, splintering her present into an uncertain future. What do I do? She asked, her voice trembling slightly. The fear was seeping in, swirling with the purpose she'd begun to cultivate. Alex stepped closer, his expression more urgent. You must prepare. If there's a hidden truth within the inheritance, it's vital you uncover it before it finds you. As for your plans, they may need to adjust. The gravity of his advice settled heavily on her shoulders. For every strand of hope she'd begun to weave, another knot tightened around her potential. Ignoring the gnawing doubts, she resolved to face whatever lay ahead. Then I'll not only confront my husband's secrets, but I will uncover the truth lurking in the shadows, whatever it may be. I owe it to my children, and to myself. His expression softened, a flicker of respect surfacing. I can help you, but you need to trust me. The razor's edge of uncertainty mingled with an urgent fire within her. Each passing moment swelled with potential, the stakes higher than she had anticipated. This wasn't just the continuation of her life's narrative. It was the unfolding of a darker plot. As thoughts raced, another uncertainty pierced her focus. Who could she trust now, when Tom had hidden so much? The thought clenched tightly around her heart, igniting a new determination. Let's start digging, then, Sarah said, voice steadying as she met his intense gaze. I refuse to drown in shadows any longer. And as Alex nodded, an unsettling correctness settled in. They both stood on the precipice of a shattered loyalty, ready to embark on a path that may expose more than either of them was prepared to face. But her resolve made her question. Was this truly her fight alone? Or would Tom's old life pull more players into her story than she'd ever anticipated? The days that followed Alex's revelation were a blur of urgency and determination for Sarah. Each morning, she awoke with a relentless drive, and every creak of the house felt charged with the threat of secrets waiting to surface. The walls that once felt comforting now loomed with doubt, shadows dancing where light should have flourished. The promise of action echoed in her mind, a mantra that urged her to pursue truth with fervor. Alex had offered to share Tom's connections, potential allies who could assist, or adversaries who could threaten. She would need insight from those deeply entrenched in the life her husband had crafted, even if it was a world she didn't yet comprehend. Her first target was an old colleague of Tom's, Martin, who had been mentioned often, but whom she'd never met. Alex insisted Martin was knowledgeable about the projects Tom had undertaken. As she sat across from him in a quiet cafe, Sarah noticed that the lightness of the day contrasted starkly with the heaviness in her heart. Tom was brilliant, Martin began, his eyes lighting up for a moment before dimming. But he was always in over his head, investments that involved some questionable, and I mean questionable, individuals. Her inner resolve hardened. What do you mean by questionable? He hesitated, deep lines of worry etched on his forehead. There were rumors, money laundering, ties to individuals I wouldn't want to involve my family with. I thought he had steered clear, but it seems he was still tied to something. Each word felt like a puzzle piece clicking into place. And would that affect his inheritance? My inheritance? She pressed, her voice steady, despite the turmoil swirling within her. Martin fidgeted, glancing around as if the very walls held ears. Possibly, but you should think long and hard before you delve too deeply. There are players who might not appreciate a widow prying into things that are best left buried. His warning hung in the air, palpable and concerning. She leaned in closer. What alternatives do I have? I won't let my children suffer because of something Tom kept in shadow. What goes unexamined might just crawl out from under the bed and bite you, he said cryptically. Beneath the surface, a battle raged. Was digging deeper a call to bravery or foolishness? The threat felt real, but so did her duty as a protector of her family. If Tom's choices had created a chasm of potential danger, then facing it head-on would be the only way to save them. As she moved through the day, possibilities unfurled like dark petals, each with its own implications. Searching for more pieces to a puzzle she never wanted to assemble propelled her forward. But what layers of revelation lurked beneath? That night, restless in her bed, Sarah replayed Martin's words. Trust was a fragile thing. It unraveled rapidly under the weight of betrayal. How could she navigate this treacherous territory guided only by her intuition and a few crumbled connections? She reached for her phone, her fingers hesitating over the screen. Should she contact Alex first, or delve deeper on her own? The decision sieved through her thoughts, each potential path fraught with risk, but also with the possibility of reclaiming her life. Finally, she sent a simple message. Meet me tomorrow. We need to talk strategy. As the words settled, she realized there would be no turning back. The past was creeping into her present with alarming tenacity, and it was time to summon every ounce of her strength. Amidst the uncertainty, one thought echoed louder than the rest. If Tom could be entangled in a web of danger, how far would she need to go to find the truth? And what would that mean for not only her future, but the future of her kids? The answer loomed undefined, dark and enticing. The coming days promised confrontation, one that might test every belief she held about trust, loyalty, and the man she thought she'd known. As she lay there, the weight of potential choices danced around her consciousness, whispering that the moment of truth was fast approaching. Would unearthing her husband's past lead her into darkness, or would she rise, transformed by the discoveries yet to unfold? The next morning brought a starkness to Sarah's resolve, a clarity forged in the fires of her recent inquiries. She dressed efficiently, the simple act of buttoning her blouse echoing the armor she was slowly assembling against the unknown. Each step toward the cafe where she would meet Alex became a declaration of her intent to confront the shadows cast by Tom's secretive life. As she settled into her seat, she noticed the quirk of her hands. Her fingers tingled with a mix of nerves and anticipation. Her mind was a whirlwind of collected thoughts. She was a strategist now, piecing together a plan that could either illuminate her future or engulf her in deeper darkness. When Alex arrived, his demeanor mirrored her anticipation, but also bore a weight of cautious optimism. "I got your message," he said, sliding into the chair across from her. "Ready to tackle this?" "Ready as I'll ever be," she replied, her voice carrying a steadiness she barely felt. Their conversation meandered through introductory topics before narrowing onto the edge of Tom's financial network. Tom had contacts in some circles that are, shall we say, less than reputable. Alex started, his forehead creased in thought. But those connections could also be beneficial. It all depends on how you want to approach them. He laid out two divergent paths for her. The cautious route, which involved discreet investigation with minimal confrontation, and the aggressive one, which necessitated direct engagement with the players in Tom's world. Sarah felt the pulse of adrenaline at the thought of risking it all. The aggressive route felt like a plunge into the unknown, yet the cautious path could mean stagnation and missed opportunities. "Tell me what happens if I choose the second option," she challenged, her determination hardening to resolve. The fire in her question drew a tight line across Alex's gaze, and she sensed his belief in her had shifted. "There's a risk, Sarah. Some of these people don't take kindly to unexpected scrutiny, but if you approach them with confidence, you may find allies among them who could provide insight or even support," he explained. "Or I could end up with enemies," she countered, a hint of doubt flaring briefly. "True, but you're already halfway there with what Martin shared," Alex said, leaning in. "If you want to protect your kids, you need to know the whole picture, every last detail." The gravity of those words hung heavily in the air. She had been teetering on the edge of this undertaking, but now it felt like an awakening to her potential. The deeper she delved, the closer she would come to a revelation that could empower her beyond what she believed possible. "I'm ready to take that risk," she declared, surprising herself with the forcefulness of her conviction. As they sketched out strategies and potential contacts, her heart raced. The world of hidden finance and shadowy dealings would be foreign territory, but she could no longer afford the luxury of ignorance. Each name they noted down felt like a key, potentially unlocking doors Tom had barred silently. Tonight, she would work through her list of possibilities, reaching out to each contact with a preliminary introduction. On the drive home, Sarah reflected on her unfamiliar resolve. Would the pursuit of truth lead her to vindication, or would she uncover a gruesome reality that altered her life irrevocably? The stakes had never been higher, and while she didn't yet grasp the full implications, a flicker of excitement coursed through her. Upon arriving home, she stood at the threshold of her house as if it were a portal to her former, safer existence. Just inside, her children were laughing, unaware of the turmoil brewing within her. That laughter intensified her mission, her need to protect them with everything she had. Yet, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a new realization struck her. This wasn't just about her husband's hidden past. It was about forging a new identity amid turmoil. The uncertainty felt daunting, yet a rush of empowerment surged through her veins. In her heart, she recognized that every moment forward would either be a step into the abyss or a climb toward reclamation. As she settled in for the night, preparing to reach out to her new contacts, a knot of anxiety twisted within her. How deep would the rabbit hole go? And would she emerge whole, or would this quest fracture her further? The decision was made. The time had come to confront not just Tom's concealed life, but her potential as a woman unafraid to seek truth. Tomorrow would unravel layers of deception, and in doing so, she might find herself staring down the face of her greatest fears. She picked up her phone to begin her outreach, but paused, struck by a chilling thought. What if some truths were better left unexposed? The weight of her choice loomed heavy as she contemplated the way forward, uncertain yet daring to hope for a path that would lead to liberation rather than destruction. The morning sun filtered through the window, and with it came the promise of a new beginning. As Sarah worked through her list of contacts, her resolve crystallized into a deliberate focus. She found herself assessing each entry not just as a name, but as a potential doorway to revelations that could reshape her understanding of Tom's life and her own. She poised herself to ask hard questions, ready to peel back layers of deception. Her first call was to Mitchell, a former associate of Tom's, whose distant reputation evoked both trepidation and curiosity. When he answered, His voice carried a weary familiarity. "Sarah, it's been a while. How can I help you?" "Hi, Mitchell," she began, trying to keep her tone steady. "I need to talk about Tom and his business dealings. I have some questions." There was a brief pause on the line, and she could feel him weighing the conversation, analyzing if speaking with her was worth his time or risk. "I'm not sure how much I can trust you given the situation," he replied. Trust was a fragile foundation in this world she was entering. "I understand, but I also need to protect my children. Whatever you can share will help me," she pressed, her voice firmer than before. At that moment, Sarah realized she wasn't just fumbling in the dark. She held a power of her own, the ability to seek, to challenge, and to demand. Mitchell relented, revealing snippets of information about illicit transactions and connections to shady figures that twisted in her gut like a knot. The revelations transformed her anxiety into a sharp focus. As she hung up, she felt a chill run through her, horror mingled with determination. The shadows within Tom's life began to reveal their contours, making her want to pull back, to distance herself from the darkness. But she couldn't afford the luxury of retreat. For every piece of information she uncovered, the potency of her motivation grew. She wasn't merely seeking answers, she was reclaiming her autonomy. The next few calls bore the same uncomfortable fruits. Each conversation chipped away at her former self. The woman who had relied on Tom, who had trusted him completely, was now navigating a terrain that felt both exhilarating and treacherous. With every name that surfaced, a web of connections tied to criminal dealings, she grappled with the tension of her choices. As evening drew near, the weight of the day's revelations settled heavily on Sarah's shoulders. She hadn't just been collecting leads, she had been unraveling a narrative that twisted tightly around her family's fate. Her fervor began to transform from mere survival instinct into a burgeoning sense of purpose. The quest for answers had ignited a spark within her, an awakening to the remembered ambitions she thought long buried. At one point during the night, she paused in her research, staring out a window into the darkening sky. Was this pathway leading to a stronger version of herself, or was it merely a descent into greater peril? Doubts stirred again as fragments of her former life flickered back, her laughter, her belief in stability, the dreams she once held. Discomfort surged in her gut. Confronting truth was liberating, yet it bore the weight of disillusionment. Suddenly, a knock on the door broke her reflection. Heart racing, she moved cautiously to open it, bracing herself for an unexpected encounter. Standing there was Alex, his expression understated but serious. "I thought we should talk in person," he said, stepping forward. In that instant, Sarah sensed the gravity of their friendship shifting. What lay ahead could strengthen her resolve or lead her deeper into a chasm of uncertainty. As he entered, she prepared herself to confront whatever truths and perhaps hidden agendas were about to unfold. The moment hung thick with tension, foreshadowing decisions that would test her newfound strength. Trust would become paramount in these next steps forward, like a double-edged sword. And just as their conversation began, a chilling thought flickered through Sarah's mind. What if even the people closest to her had their secrets buried beneath the surface? The weight of uncertainty settled into Sarah's stomach as Alex entered the room. The familiar warmth of their friendship was overshadowed by a distinct tension in the air. His serious gaze pierced through her facade, leaving her feeling exposed. She couldn't shake the notion that he was about to pry open doors she might not be ready to confront. "Is everything okay?" she asked, trying to maintain a semblance of normalcy. But the tremor in her voice betrayed her. He motioned toward the couch, and they both sat, the distance between them feeling monumental. "I've heard some things about Tom," he began cautiously, his brow furrowed. "Things that concern me, and I think you need to know." As the words tumbled from his lips, Sarah braced herself, her heart pounding. This was the moment she had anticipated, but simultaneously dreaded, the moment where she would confront not just Tom's past, but also the implications for her future. "What do you mean?" she pressed, her voice a whisper. Alex looked down for a moment, gathering his thoughts, before meeting her gaze with an intensity that sent shivers down her spine. Mitchell isn't the only one willing to talk. There are others, people who have been watching since Tom started dipping into those deals. I know you're trying to get to the bottom of things, but this isn't just business, it's dangerous. Her mind raced. The danger associated with Tom's business dealings was something she had contemplated but never fully grasped. She thought about her children, about the fragile veneer of normal life she had tried to uphold. Could she expose them to this world of shadows, or was ignorance bliss? "I can handle it," she asserted, standing her ground. Whether true or not, she needed to believe it. "I need to know the truth, not just for me, but for my kids." Alex nodded, his expression softening momentarily as if he understood the tempest within her. "It's more than just knowing the truth, Sarah. You have to prepare for what lies ahead. I don't want to see you caught off guard." His concern was a lifeline, but it also felt like an anchor pulling her back into the depths of doubt. The dichotomy between protection and truth loomed large, intensifying her resolve. "So what do you suggest I do?" "Let me help," he proposed, leaning forward. "I can use my contacts to gather information, understand the full scope of Tom's dealings." There was a part of her that hesitated. She wanted to be independent, to navigate through the maze of deception alone. Yet, another part recognized that collaboration could bring clarity. She glanced at him, measuring trust against the backdrop of her escalating fears. "And what do you get from this?" A flicker of vulnerability crossed his face. "You matter to me, Sarah. I want to see you safe." The sincerity of his words struck a deep chord. Perhaps in him, Sarah found not only a potential ally, but also a reflection of her own hidden strengths, her capacity for steadfastness amidst chaos. "All right," she conceded, a blend of resolve and misgiving coursing through her. "Let's work together. But we need to be careful." As they began to formulate a plan, Sarah felt the layers of her former self start to peel away. She was no longer just a protective mother. She was becoming a strategist, a seeker of truth willing to confront dangers for the sake of her family. The conversation shifted between logistics and speculation, ideas crystallizing into actionable steps. But just as she let herself buoy in the surge of empowerment, Alex broached a new topic, his voice lowering. "There's something else you should know. It involves Tom's investments, and someone who might have taken a deeper interest in both him and you." A wave of foreboding washed over her. Who else had entangled themselves in Tom's web? What more lurked in the shadows she was desperately trying to unveil? The hunt for answers surged forward, emboldening her growing resilience. Yet the unsettling realization loomed. The more she uncovered, the greater the risk became, not just for her, but for her children as well. As if reading her thoughts, Alex leaned closer. "The time has come to face the truth, Sarah. It's no longer about just finding answers. It's about understanding what those answers could mean." A chill slithered down her spine. The stakes were rising, pushing her closer to a precipice she had only begun to understand. But what if, in uncovering Tom's secrets, she stumbled across her own buried truths, those she had kept hidden even from herself? Sarah's resolve hardened as she leaned back, weighing Alex's words. The flicker of the lamp cast shadows across the room, deepening the lines of worry on her face. What exactly lay beneath Tom's dealings? Every layer she peeled back seemed to expose another, more unsettling truth, like a series of Russian dolls. She realized she needed to ready herself, not just for what she might uncover about Tom, but also about herself. "Tell me more about this other person," she demanded, stifling the tight knot of fear in her stomach. Her gut churned with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Alex hesitated before speaking, glancing toward the window as if searching for the right words in the fading daylight. "Some believe it's a business partner of Tom's, someone who's become more involved with individuals who have a murky connection to him. their interest might not solely be financial. The intensity of his gaze shook her. "Why would they be interested in me?" she asked, pushing the suffocating fog of dread aside. The urgency for clarity propelled her forward. She needed this understanding like a lifeline. "I don't know yet, but if Tom is involved in something that risks even a hint of exposure, they might see you as a liability or a pawn." "It's time to navigate those waters carefully," Alex urged. She felt the gravity of an awakening. This was bigger than simple deceit. It was a labyrinth of connections and motives. The thought that her life and safety were implications of Tom's choices was chilling. As they began to brainstorm strategies, Sarah experienced a shift. The fearful woman who had felt lost only moments ago began to envision actionable paths. She would not remain a passive participant in her life any longer. "What if I approached this differently?" she pondered aloud. "What if I used my connections to get information on him?" The thought empowered her, resonating with a newfound confidence. Alex studied her, his brow raised in surprise. "You mean leverage your network?" "Yes," she exclaimed, the idea taking solid form. "I could reach out to some of the contacts from my work, investigate discreetly, create a cover story if needed. I have skills in management, negotiation. Surely I can apply those here." He nodded, the corner of his mouth lifting in an impressed smile, but there was a shadow behind his eyes. "You're brilliant, Sarah. Just remember, this is a mountain of risk. Once you start digging, there may be no turning back." The adrenaline pulsed through her veins. "But isn't knowing preferable to living in fear?" she countered, the determination surging in her chest. "I've navigated corporate challenges. I can do this." "Just be mindful of who you trust," he cautioned, though his tone suggested admiration. As they turned their focus to constructing her plan, Sarah felt the empowerment refine her purpose. She wasn't just seeking to uncover the truth about Tom. She was positioning herself to reclaim her life. Each moment of clarity steered her further from the woman who once felt shackled by subservience. She pulled a notebook from her bag and sketched out potential contacts. With every name, she envisioned how those relationships could be transformed into tools for her mission. A sudden thought gripped her. What if I discovered something beyond Tom? Something that could redefine everything I believe about our life and future? What if there's wealth at stake? The implications were dizzying, both thrilling and terrifying. Alex fixed her with a serious stare, sensing the weight of her new awareness. "Be careful, Sarah. Secrets have a way of ensnaring those who uncover them." His words settled over her, a chilling warning she couldn't easily dismiss. Yet she could feel her own identity starting to crystallize, no longer defined by her husband's shadow. As they wrapped up their planning, tangible goals materializing in front of them, Sarah felt a sliver of something she hadn't in years. Hope. What if unraveling the mystery around Tom liberated her in ways she hadn't anticipated? And just as she felt that flicker of potential ignite, Alex's phone buzzed with an incoming message. He glanced at it, his expression shifting dramatically. "We need to talk," he said, his voice low. "You might want to sit down." An unsettling apprehension quivered through her. What revelation awaited them? The journey had only just begun, and the stakes were undeniably rising. The heavy air in the room hung like a storm cloud waiting to burst. Alex's expression was stoic, every line on his face straining against the gravity of the moment. Sarah's pulse quickened. The thrill of empowerment she had felt minutes ago dimmed under the shadow of uncertainty. She needed to focus, to navigate the treacherous waters he had alluded to. "What is it?" she asked, the urgency in her voice cutting through the thick tension. Alex held up his phone, the screen illuminating his worried face. "Just read this," he urged, handing it to her. The message on the screen was blunt and stark, a single terse sentence warning of consequences if she continued her inquiry into Tom's affairs. A chill raced down Sarah's spine. "Who sent this?" she demanded, eyes darting from the screen back to Alex's face. He shook his head, concern etched into every furrow of his brow. "I can't tell. It's an unknown number." Her mind raced. The implications of such a message were enormous. Beyond the looming threat against her, there lay the question of who wanted to silence her and why they believed she held any power at all. Maybe the network she planned to tap into was larger and more dangerous than she had imagined. "We need to tread carefully," Alex advised, his voice steady but urgent. "This could involve people more powerful than we thought. You have to be absolutely prepared for whatever you find." Sarah felt the surge of determination gripping her again. Every second that passed felt like a countdown, pushing her to act rather than react. Fear, she realized, was the anchor she had to sever. She needed to be proactive, not just vigilant. By continuing her search, she wasn't just looking for information about Tom. She was redefining her own narrative, emerging from a life that had, for too long, been dictated by others. "I'm not turning back," she declared, her voice stronger than she felt. "If they want to intimidate me, they'll find that I'm more than they bargained for." Behind her bravado, however, a seedling of doubt sprouted. The risks were tangible and could spiral out of her control. "What's our next step?" Alex asked, a strategic glint in his eyes. She took a breath, letting the resolve shift into clarity. "We need to look for someone Tom has worked with closely. There must be vulnerabilities in their network." Using her previous experience in management, she began mapping outward, each connection requiring her to weigh risks against potential rewards. "I need to put together a formal list of queries," Sarah said, already feeling the rhythm of a plan take form. "I'll reach out to a few contacts for intel while maintaining a facade. One person could lead to another until I find the core." As she scribbled down names and strategies, moments of doubt would occasionally gnaw at her. But every time, she countered it with another name, another angle to approach. "Just remember," Alex interrupted her thoughts, "we have to be discreet. If they catch on to what you're doing, I know, I have to control the narrative. If Tom has taken on dangerous partnerships, I can turn that against him, against whoever else is involved." Her quest for clarity was now layered with a deeper motivation, not just for personal safety, but for agency over her life. Each name she penned down felt like pulling on a thread of her own story, something that had remained on the shelf for too long. As she wrapped up her notes, the weight of her decisions settled into her bones. She was preparing to breach the fortress Tom had built, potentially opening doors she could never close again. The very notion sent jolts of adrenaline through her. This was no longer just about survival. It was about empowerment. Just then, another message notification sounded from Alex's phone, more urgent now than the last. "I think you'll want to see this." His expression was grave. Without a moment's hesitation, she leaned over, eyes widening as she spotted a familiar name, a contact she had once seen in Tom's circle. What did this mean? The world seemed to narrow in around her, the walls both constricting and electrifying at once. With the new revelation looming over her, she felt the edge of her resolve sharpen. Confronting the forces that had kept her in the shadows was no longer a choice, but a necessity. Had she just unlocked a key element of Tom's world, or had she unleashed a far greater danger? The question hung in the air, teasing the next phase of her journey into the unknown, where clarity met chaos. As days melted into a whirlwind of activity, Sarah found herself standing at the epicenter of a narrative that felt both exhilarating and terrifying. She meticulously gathered information, revealing the intricate web of connections that defined Tom's life. Her mornings were spent poring over documents and making calls, while evenings turned into late-night strategy sessions with Alex, who had become an invaluable ally in her quest for truth. "Sarah, you're becoming a force to be reckoned with," Alex said one night, admiration ringing clear in his voice as they sorted through a new stack of contacts he had managed to unearth. They sat in the glow of her kitchen, papers strewn out like a battlefield, each note a testament to her transformation. "You've taken control of this situation far beyond what I expected." She nodded, feeling the weight of his words settling over her like a well-earned mantle. "I've realized something," she began, voice tinged with newfound conviction. "This inheritance, this hidden past, it's not just about money or secrets. It's about reclaiming who I am outside of Tom's shadow." The clarity in her voice was profound. Each syllable resonated with the money, the risk, and, most importantly, the responsibility that lay ahead. As she dove deeper into the darkness of her husband's former world, the pieces fell into place. Tom's life was riddled with dubious financial ties and a network of individuals whose loyalty hinged on profit rather than principle. Each conversation served as a reminder of her evolution from a grieving widow to a determined mother and strategist, fiercely defending her family's future. "Here's the address of the meetup with Mitchell," Alex said, handing her a note. "This could change everything." Her heart raced as she read the address, knowing that stepping into that meeting meant potentially facing adversaries who were enmeshed in the very darkness she had been deciphering for weeks. But this time, she steeled herself with the resolve of a woman touched by realization. She was no longer navigating this territory blindly. She felt tethered to her past, empowered by the decisions she was about to make. The day arrived, bringing with it an air of foreboding and expectation. In a small, nondescript cafe, a far cry from the polished establishments she once frequented, Sarah sat at a table, waiting. "What if this is a trap?" she whispered to Alex, who sat across from her, mirroring her anxiety. "If it is, we'll handle it together," he assured her. "You've got this. Trust your instincts." She wanted nothing more than to believe him. But the stark imagery of her life with Tom hung around her like a cloak, shrouding her in doubt. Every moment that passed filled her with gravity, each tick of the clock pushing her closer to the unknown. When Mitchell finally arrived, he seemed older, defeated even, but his eyes sparked with recognition. "Sarah," he greeted, pulling the chair closer, his voice low and conspiratorial. "Thank you for meeting me." "Thank you for being willing to talk," she replied, meeting his gaze with determination. "I need to know everything about Tom's dealings, and I'm not leaving here until I do." The conversation unfolded, each detail contributing to a mosaic she had struggled to piece together. "He was caught in a dangerous game," Mitchell muttered, eyes darting nervously around the room as if expecting someone to overhear. "The investments he made, some were legitimate, but others, they were tied to people with dubious motives." "Did he know he was in too deep?" she pressed, searching for clarity among the chaos. "I'm not sure he realized the risks until it was too late. But you need to prepare. There are people who may not look kindly on you snooping around." Fear threatened to rise within her, but she pushed it down, steeling her resolve. "George," she stated, "you need to give me everything you know about him." The name was like an incantation, conjuring the specter of her fears. Over the next hour, Mitchell divulged everything. George's involvement in dubious projects, connections to crime syndicates, and a tangled history with Tom that revealed secret paths leading to danger or opportunity. The pieces of the puzzle began coalescing within her mind, framing a picture that was both enlightening and sobering. "Why do you want this information?" Mitchell asked suddenly, his gaze piercing. "There are risks to knowing. You understand that, right?" "I'm fighting for my children," Sarah replied, the fire igniting her words. "Every choice I make from here on out is aimed at protecting them. I won't allow shadows to loom over their lives anymore." Mitchell studied her for a moment, recognition dawning. "I see a lot of Tom in you," he nodded quietly, though there was a hint of sorrow in his expression. "Let's just say I've inherited his tenacity, and I don't intend for it to go to waste." With the meeting wrapped up, Sarah and Alex made their way back, contemplating the implications of the information they had uncovered. "Things are changing, aren't they?" he remarked, glancing at her with pride. "You're no longer the woman who hesitated at the thought of stepping into the light." "Nothing feels the same, but I'm no longer afraid of the shadows," she admitted, her voice ringing with a new sense of power. By the end of the week, armed with knowledge and a clearer vision, Sarah organized what had felt increasingly like chaos into actionable strategies. Each contact she reached out to added another thread to the tapestry of her newfound life. During one such call, she learned of a gathering of businessmen involved in Tom's dealings, a meeting that could shed light on the larger framework of intrigue encompassing her husband's legacy. With Alex by her side, they devised a plan for her to attend the meeting, disguising herself seamlessly among the crowd. She could almost feel the thrum of possibility pulsing around her. She was no longer reacting to her circumstances. She was actively engaging. On the day of the meeting, her pulse quickened as she dressed, the weight of expectation heavy on her shoulders. She was stepping beyond the threshold of light into a world brimming with uncertainty. Yet the drive to unearth the truth ignited a fire deep within her. As she stepped into the room, filled with a blend of familiar and unknown faces, she took a deep breath. This was her moment, to confront the truth about Tom's hidden life, and perhaps, in doing so, finally reclaim her own. "Remember, stay sharp," Alex whispered as she stepped away. "I will," she assured him, the words hanging in the air, outcomes uncertain, yet filled with potential. And just like that, she crossed the line between shadows and light, poised to carve out a new future, not defined by legacy, but by her choices, confronting the darkness, one revelation at a time. As the discussions began, Sarah felt the weight of her transformation settling firmly across her shoulders. She had not just inherited wealth, she had unearthed her resilience, a newfound determination to confront whatever lay ahead. In that room, amidst whispered plans and shadowy intentions, she was determined to demonstrate to the world she could conquer this her own way. Each moment fortified her resolve, steeling her for the trials yet to come, where her past would collide with her future. She wasn't just a widow anymore. She was a woman awakening to her true power, intent on reshaping her narrative. The secrets would no longer define her family. Instead, they would herald her emergence as a force stronger than any shadow lurking in the depths of Tom's choices. With confidence blossoming within her, Sarah was ready to embrace the future, prepared to chart a path that finally honored the legacy of strength, the true gift Tom had left behind. Now, as the journey sharpened into focus, every revelation was a step toward freedom. It was clear that she would emerge whole, armed with the truth of her husband's life, and in turn, awaken the truth of her own. This was her fight, and she was ready to claim it. Don't wait even one more second to be part of this transformative journey. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories that will inspire you to reclaim your power. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover these incredible tales of triumph. Comment your reactions and theories about Sarah's remarkable transformation and the changes still to come. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion and understand the strength that comes from personal growth. Your support means everything. Let's ignite this community of empowering stories together.